Welcome to Thriving Tribesmen. My name is Kuri, your host, and I'm excited to be making this episode. Today, we're going to be talking about the greatest pain in a sexless relationship, which is consistent rejection. A lot of you guys, when I speak to you, it's one of the things that drives you absolutely nuts. And I know how it can feel. When you're being rejected consistently, you feel a sense of loneliness. You feel like this person has done a bait and switch, is one of the words that I hear, or the words that I hear people saying. You feel like you're just roommates. And sometimes you feel you're just being used to be the bill payer, lack of a better term. So you're just this provider. And some of you are in situations where there's just a whole communication breakdown, where now you just exist within that household, which is a really terrible place. But I think it's worse when the person is telling you that they love you, they tell you that you're everything to them, but they don't match that with the level of commitment on a sexual level. So again, it's really dichotomous. It's more of a mind fuck rather than anything. So really, we're going to talk about rejection and really just give you a different perspective of how to look at it. By looking at it this way, it's going to empower you to approach things a little bit different, and also get you to a place where you understand what are the next steps I need to take in order to change my relationship. Because the change from where you are right now to a place where you're actually having momentum towards a good frequency of sex, it's very, very small. And when I hear people say, it's going to take you 2 weeks to change the relationship, honestly, it can just take one conversation. And when I say change the relationship, I don't mean it's all of a sudden consistency of, on this now high frequency. It takes time to build the frequency. But the idea of making sex a priority really comes down to 2 or 3 conversations and how you place them and how you put them. So it's something that we might probably cover. It's probably not, I can cover a little bit, at least in terms of the principles of it, but at the same time, I try not to give the tactical side of it, because the way I would give a tactical side to one person will be different to somebody else. It's not one size fits all, because the women are different. Again, there's different women that respond to different things based off of their past. And so we even actually have a 7 profiles of this type of women. So there's certain key drivers that drive them into relationships, and therefore they will respond differently to certain stimulus in terms towards sex. So again, this is why a lot of you guys end up in the rejection mode, because you sort of pigeonhole them into this is what they're supposed to be. This is what's supposed to be their reaction to this action, which is normally what, for example, if you watch Hollywood or you watch what seduction looks like, you have this pattern that we think that all women respond to. But again, women don't respond to the same thing. They respond differently. Again, based off the fact that you guys are a couple, especially when you've got kids under the age of 15 and you're involved. We've talked about energy expenditure and talking about the priorities within your day. If you break it down, there's about 4 that are major. Your resources, which is you going out to get a job. If both of you are working, again, that takes the majority of your time. And then the next one is logistics. That's the cooking and making sure the house is clean, and looking after the children. That takes a bulk of it. Then obviously there's the sleep and training and so on. And then there's you guys, the relationship. And usually that takes about 2 to 4 hours per week. And therefore the time for you guys to connect is extremely finite. And most people sort of leave it to chance, leave it to hope. And again, when you leave it to chance and leave it to hope, what tends to happen is that you don't have a plan or an action, or at least an action plan, in order to lead to a seduction or attraction, for example. And what that tends to do is that it just sets you up to a place where you're going to fail. And again, it's one of those things that if you you don't plan, or you don't have some intention to what you're doing, you then are setting yourself up for failure. In terms of attraction, or at least seduction towards, when you're going towards sex, we talk about using a temperature check in terms to see where she's at from a sexual standpoint. And one of the things that is, if she's cold, she's nowhere interested in wanting to have sex. And then if she's warm, she's probably open to the idea but not quite there. And then if she's hot, then she's ready to have sex. And really knowing where she's at within these interactions is key, because when you know she's extremely cold, then you know that you are within an attraction phase. So these are the certain things that you need to be doing in order to move her to a warm stage. And then once she's in the warm, there's a point where you transition from that into seduction, where then you getting it to the place where she's compliant with you sexually. So again, there is this process that you have to go through. And again, you not knowing that there's a process makes it so much harder, because most of you guys tend to skip the process and go straight into seduction mode. And usually she's still within the cold side of things. So all of a sudden she, again, rejects you. I'm using rejection, but really what she's saying is that I'm not quite there. And most of you guys self-destruct to actually give her the chance to warm up. So when you self-destruct, what tends to happen is that you self-destruct in a way where you either blame her at some points, where again that never helps anything. If you get angry, it puts it on her, but she doesn't know why. She doesn't feel like she wants to have sex. She doesn't know why you've got angry when you've told her, when she's told you no. And again, a lot of it, you got to take it from her perspective, that when you were dating and you were getting to know each other, and as you started courting and getting closer to getting married, when sex was good, you were gentle, you were kind, you were appreciative. There's so many good emotions around it. Whereas now, whenever there is a little bit of friction, you fall apart and you don't show leadership. You don't. You show all these negative emotions. So what tends to happen is that in itself, those interactions cause a negative association, which means that every time there is a hint of sex, she thinks about the negative stuff that is going to happen. If she says no, she feels obligated to sometimes. And when she does feel obligated to, she feels quite horrible for actually having to do this. So there's this negative association that's built around sex. Then what it tends to happen is that every time you initiate, it compounds. Now, again, a lot of you guys, because you're not going through the process of moving along within that, she's cold right now, I'm going to move it to warm, and then I'm going to get it to hot. What tends to happen is that because you've got a negative association, she stays completely cold to the idea of sex. Even if she feels like she wants to have sex, she would rather interact with herself rather than interact with you, because she doesn't want to give you, somebody spoke to me about this, saying that she doesn't want to give you false hope that, okay, maybe this is what's going to happen from now on. So sometimes she will choose. And again, I've heard this quite a few times where a guy will ask me, my partner seems to be playing with herself, or she seems to be doing stuff with herself, but we are sexless. What is going on? And it tends to be that if she's already got a negative association, that she will prioritize sexual encounter in a way that is going to leave her feeling good about herself, whereas within a frame where she feels like she's obligated to, she might feel quite horrible about the whole experience. And again, this is one of those things where we talk about sexual discomfort, that when those interactions where you self-destruct because you've had a bit of friction within your sexual interaction, what tends to happen, again, just as a side note, really, when you a lot of the issues that you face from a rejection standpoint that makes you feel uncomfortable, that makes you self-destruct, that makes you talk down on yourself, or that gets you to blame and shame your wife, all of that stems from something that has happened to you way before the marriage. So whether it was the case that you were whenever they picked teams for a game, you were always the last one to be picked, or you were never picked, or people would never invite you out. If you have suffered some sort of rejection way before that, the actual sexual rejection becomes a triggering point and then forces you to self-destruct. And again, whatever you did in order to medicate yourself or get your place to feel good, it might not even work at this point. So again, you can see why that when you get rejected, and I'm saying rejected, but really it's a maybe. When you get given a maybe, your self-destruction is what is causing more of the problem rather than changing things. And now, it's easier said than done because a lot of you guys have been in this frame for such a long time. And really, the best approach to a situation where you initiate and she says no is to just say, what, I understand that this is how you feel. Okay, how can I get to a point where we can interact in that way? Or I know that maybe you don't feel like it right now. What can we do in order for us to build up towards it? And it's a conversation that is quite difficult to have. She might not even know how to answer it, but at least giving her that opportunity to say, you know what, I get it, that you're not feeling it right now. And again, if she's dismissive and she doesn't want to talk about it, then you say, you know what, if the sex is not on the cards today, let's figure out a way of interacting and figuring out why it's not on the cards. And again, it just opens up that dialogue. Now, if she's completely dismissive and doesn't want to talk about it, then it's now a different conversation altogether, because then it's more of a case of what is the priority in terms of our relationship. Because if you're not the priority anymore, then it's a different, again, it changes. But regardless of where the conversation goes, it gives you more momentum than you initiate, you get rejected, you get upset, and then you wait for another week or 2 weeks before you initiate again, and you follow the same process. Again, absolute crazy, because a lot of you guys have lived this life where you're doing this similar process over and over again for some years for now. And really, it has to change, because again, one of the most horrible things that I hear is when I speak to 60-year-olds, 65-year-olds, and they've been in this situation for 20 years, and they think now they wish they just either ended the relationship or at least just done something about the relationship. It's so late in the game that they feel stuck and trapped. And those are the most difficult clients for me, because the burden of regret never allows them to move towards anything that is happy. In fact, it's one of the things that when it comes, because again, it's the roots that they built, the fact that they've got kids and then now they've got grandchildren, them choosing to separate is so much harder. And I can understand it. They want to leave the relationship, but again, they just left it for so long that now it's at that point where it's completely very difficult for them to move. And I can see that for many of you guys, because now we've got at least 600 guys that are listening to episodes right now. And even though I've offered a free seduction blueprint, a few of you guys have taken up on that, and I find it quite crazy that people wait till it gets worse before they actually make any move. And I get it. I've got a few physician friends and clients, and they always tell me that guys are the worst. Whenever it comes to their health, they wait till they're at the most horrible place before they actually make a move. But unfortunately, with relationships, it isn't like that. It's corrodes over a period of time. What that means is that it doesn't happen as a big hit you in the face type thing. It's something that is just eating at you bit by bit, every single day, every single week, every single year. And it's just going to be doing that for a long period of time. One day you're going to wake up and then recognize that, oh God, I should have made a move. Now, like I said, today you can have that conversation and say, you know what? I can see that we've hit this place where sex is now a negative place. What are the next steps that we can make it something that's positive? Simple question. It's so simple. again, if she starts blaming, she starts shaming you, that's okay. She'll point that out and say, okay, that's cool. I see what you mean. I understand what you mean. I can see why you feel that way. But it still doesn't resolve the fact that we're not connecting in that way. How can we start moving that way? Or at least what is going to make you feel comfortable to move that way? And again, it's just a conversation that's going to happen over a few times. And as you do it, what's going to tend to happen is that it's essentially going to bring focus to the relationship. Whatever you focus on actually grows. So this is why it's really important to have some of these conversations. I tend to say don't have the conversation, but I think now that I'm giving you guys structure around the conversation, you can at least do this bit. The other caveats with this is that you have to be neutral state. And this is one of the reasons why I say don't have the conversation, because there's other things that I play, your body language, your voice tone, you being in a neutral state, and then you actually having a leadership frame. And these other bits where you have to pre-frame the actual conversation itself. So again, when she comes to that conversation, she feels safe rather than she feels like attacked or feels like she's broken. So there's a few things around that you have to do. But from an amateur standpoint, you can ask okay, this is where we are, which is we're not having sex, we're not connecting, there is some discomfort, there is some situation where we can't find our feet on this. That one word that my friend used, again, I thought was pretty good. We're not in sync. How can we move our relation to a place where we can be on sync? Now, she might tell you things like, we need more date nights, we need more whatever. All of that is good. But I think if in terms of moving away from it, if you're moving away from that conversation, there's one thing that you have to done is set a specific date to implement whatever you've agreed on. Now, again, I've got feelings around date nights, I've got feelings around, romantic gestures and so on. But if that's what it takes to start the conversations going, then that's the direction that you've got to have to take in order to start getting things moving. Now, again, I can give you a free seduction custom blueprint. What that means is that I will speak to you about your situation, what's going on with your wife, some of her past, understand a little bit of that, and then I'll give you a free action plan. Okay, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to say it, this is how it's going to turn out. And again, if you want to get this, go to Thriving_Tribesmen on Instagram and then type in community, and then I'll know that then I'll send you a link so we can have this conversation. Like I said, it's for free. You don't even have to pay anything, because a lot of you guys are afraid to be sold to, or are afraid to actually then have that conversation because you're going to be given an exercise to do. And this puts it on you to actually start fixing it. So some of you guys are happy to coast within the problem and not actually fix it. And I don't want you to be the guy who's going to be 65 and completely stuck within a relationship that you regret for the past 20 years. Nothing was been happy. You've been absolutely miserable. You can absolutely change this. Again, a lot of you guys, you just lack that courage and that bravery to make a move right now. And you have to. And all the guys that have made that move are absolutely better within their relationships. One of the guys that is on holiday right now, he's come from America to Italy, and the last conversation we had was like, this is the first time I'm going to this trip actually feeling happy about going to this trip. He hated holiday, he hated vacations, because it was the same old thing where he had all this resentment around the relationship. The interactions around them was horrible, but the interactions with the kids was amazing, and it was just this horrible place. But now he's got things under control to the point where his wife is now putting stuff as a priority. And again, it's a journey. It's still on that journey. But what I'm saying is that you can change your relationship. It just takes you to be brave. It takes you to be courageous. And again, if you don't do it today, when are you ever going to do it? Sometimes we leave it for tomorrow. We leave it for next week. We never, when are you going to do it? So I just wanted to encourage you. I didn't mean to go this far and say, but I just felt the need to speak to you directly because you've been thinking about this for such a long time. You've been afraid to be sold to. You've been afraid. Maybe you've been burnt. Maybe you've hired coaches and it's not worked. And again, this is the reason why we give out as much of the stuff free, way in advance, so we can give you a result. Once you have a result, then you know the stuff works. Then again, when it comes for you to pay for the next bit of of our journey together, then it's so much easier because you know it works. It's like Netflix. We'll give you the first month free, and then you know that it's good. And basically, that's what it is. And I just wanted to tell you that because I know most people try and disguise the whole we're selling this and so on. I'm just quite upfront with it. If you're old enough to decide whether you need help or you don't need help, the fact that you're listening to this, you most likely need help, and that's okay. Like I need help too. Like I listen to marketing stuff, and I'm willing to pay for guys to help me to do that stuff because that's something that I don't know, and I'm willing to learn. So again, it's only when you surround yourself with people that are of the same mind and wanting to achieve the same things that you are actually going to achieve any greatness. And this is why we've built a community around helping people to resolve this. So guys, thank you very much, guys. I just felt the need to go this far and at least inspire you to actually make a move, because this is your time to actually change this next half of the year. I want it to be an incredible half of the year. So thank you very much, guys. I'll be seeing you guys soon. Take care.